you for being here and thank your audience for being here on Wisdom on the Front Porch. We were just joking that sometimes my spelling is not the best. But I'm so glad you're here, Shannon. You're an author too, but let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey. So, what is your business and what do you do?
Well, thank you so much for having me. It is wonderful to be here, and it's so nice to have your smiling face and your wonderful laugh. I actually have a company that stems back 16 years, but I like to say I put it to bed and woke it back up again recently. The
Okay.
company is essentially a health and wellness, more a wellness program for children. And it stemmed from a while back in 2007. I met my stepkids. They weren't my stepkids at the time, obviously, because I just met them, but I had been with my now husband for a year and a half. And one day, finally, he said, "Do you want to meet the kids?" We had made it that far. We were in love. It was time to meet the kids. So I was 31 at the time, and I walk in and I think I know everything because that's what we do. And I came from the childhood of that you hear the Generation Xers now bragging about that we played all the time. So that's what I'm expecting from these children. They're 4, 8, and 10. And so we're doing some stuff. And then I say, go out and play. And here I'm thinking this is an awesome thing that I'm telling them to do because that's what I wanted to do. So I tell them to go out and play. And immediately, well, not immediately, 5 minutes later, they came back in and said, "Miss Shannon, we don't know what to do." And
And
I am absolutely thrown. And I'm thinking there's something wrong with my now husband and his ex-wife. Like, what have they done wrong with these children? Right? Because I'm like, what's wrong with them?
that's
So,
funny.
yeah. So at the time, I was in corporate America. And so I merge these two together. I was in corporate America and I was a communications consultant. So I was writing. And I actually went into consulting because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I figured, and I was a communication major in college. So I figured, like, I'll go into these different companies and I'll see what they all do and then I'll pick one. Well, I ended up just like dipping my toes into all these different companies. So I worked for Boeing and Sara Lee and Kraft. I mean, huge companies, got to see totally different things. And my job was to communicate to the employees what the company was doing. So if they were, sometimes it was just signing up for your medical plan. That was like the bread and butter. That was really boring, but I learned a lot. It was stock exchanges. It was retirement. Toward the end, when I met my stepkids, I was doing wellness programs, and it really drove me. Like I was about ready to leave consulting. I don't know if you've been a consultant, but the thing is, you have your phone on you all the time, and they say jump and you say how high. So I'm exhausted at this point, working really hard. But I love doing these wellness programs because I'm seeing people change their lives and my writing's having an impact on them. I'm hearing their success stories. It was really cool. But I also was thinking at the time, why are we going back and teaching people this? Why didn't we grow them up this way? Why don't we just grow people up this way? And all of these programs were health incentive programs. So what that means is, like, the employees would do something, they get points, and the company would let them cash in the points. So
Okay.
I'm sitting there thinking that, and all of a sudden I meet these little kids and I'm seeing that they can't play. And so I decided to look into it. And it wasn't just my three beautiful children, it was children everywhere were having a hard time because
Oh,
of
yeah. Yeah.
technology.
Yeah.
So I became,
I have something to tell you about that.
yeah,
Just another example of it. Um, when my kids were little, and this would have been, you know, I guess at the time when it happened, it would have been late 80s.
mhm,
And we didn't have a television. We were far enough away. We didn't have all the antennas and everything. And the people, the kids from town, when they would come out and hang out at the farm, they would, 5 minutes, they don't know what to do. It's like, go, you don't have a TV? No. You don't have this?
yeah,
No.
yeah.
And they go, well, what do you
Ooh,
do? So the kids would show them what to do, and they would learn to play outside. Once we got a TV, my sister, she couldn't stand it that didn't have a TV. She thought it was the worst thing in the world. We got a TV, and within 1 month, we didn't have, I don't know, it wasn't good channels. We never did have good reception. And I told the kids, go outside and play. And 5 minutes later, they come in the house. They don't know how to play. I mean, just that
right. It was
fast.
just that fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy. So it's like, okay, we're limiting TV time. You going to go out and learn how to play again.
Yeah, isn't that crazy how fast that went?
Yes.
Yeah,
It
so
was.
imagine parents now, you've got TV, tablet, computer, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, phone, you have everything, right?
Yes.
And we can get back more into this later, but it's really designed to keep you glued to it. I mean, they've purposely done
Yes.
that. So it's a real huge thing. And I recognized way back then, like, this is not good because I'm seeing these kids have behavioral issues, not knowing how to talk to people. I mean, all these things that come with it. So at that time, to tell the story really quickly, my husband and I left corporate America and he was my business partner and we started this company and I wrote 6 books in a year, which was really hard because they were children's books. I had no idea what I was doing. I went from technical writing and writing about, stock programs to that. But I did that as a way to get kids interested in what we were doing, interested in
Okay.
learning the moral stories that we were telling, and then doing the activities. At the same time, we built a website. We did the investor raise, we did all that stuff. We spent all this money. And we were doing stuff in the site that I cannot believe we did. It came out later, like in 2015. I'm like, oh, that's what we were trying to do. But back then, none of that was built. So we built this huge 90-something page website, spent all this money, and came out with it right when apps came out. Just,
Great.
right? So that happened. And then some personal stuff happened with my husband and my stepkids, where I ended up being the full-time caretaker of them. So
Okay.
we have this product come out, it's not hitting correctly. And all of a sudden, I have these 3 kids. Their mom had moved to California, and my husband had to take a job in Indiana, and we were in Chicago. So
Oh,
all of a sudden,
wonderful.
yeah, so all of a sudden, I'm a full-time single stepmom. So it's like, what just happened? So at that time, and I really wanted to share this with entrepreneurs listening, I could not have felt more of a failure because
Right.
I left my corporate and it was a good job, but I also say it was like the golden handcuffs. Like I was not happy. Um,
Yes.
I use this and I say this as a joke, but I think everyone will understand. I told my husband at one point that I went from being suicidal, and I never really was. It was a joke, but I went from being suicidal to homicidal, so it was time to move. It was
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
like I want to hurt other people now. I need to leave. So, um, so I left, and and I had this great job. I started this thing, and it quote unquote failed, and it just felt horrible. And I had always been this businesswoman, and now I'm this stay-at-home mom, and I just beat myself up. It was really bad. I just felt like such a failure. And the coolest thing that has happened to me since then is now I look back at it and I'm going, thank you, God, because the stuff I would have sold back then in 2008, 2009, 10, the messages I would have given children, the authority that I had as a parent was so different than it is now.
Oh, isn't
And
that something?
yeah, and so I was new then. I had empathy as a parent, but I didn't have the sympathy that I have now because now I've been in the trenches.
Yes.
Yeah, I know how much harder it is. And the other thing is, I would have taught stuff in the books that was still culturally appropriate, but that's not appropriate to me anymore that I would want to teach to kids. So I'm
Okay.
really glad that I didn't do that. And also crazy, I was almost prophetically ahead of the game then with that. And now people know what this technology has done to our kids. So it's always thank you, God, right? It's always thank you, God. But I also, and you'll appreciate this, I also got to be a mom. I got to parent. And that's something you can't replace with anything else. So as painful as that was, I'm doing a quotes. I called it a failure now. Now I call it a lesson.
Yeah. I do that. All of them. I call them challenges. I don't even use the F word anymore.
No, no.
They're challenges. They're things to learn from, to overcome, to get better at. And
Mhm. And
you
we're building, we're just start. So I came back to the company in 2020, everything was crazy. And I will tell you, if you have the dream that God has put you here to do, he will not let you let it go.
yeah,
Like here I'm thinking, we're 16 years into this, but 2020, we officially closed in 2015, but really 2012, and I could not stop thinking about this. And
isn't
I
that
really didn't want to. I was like, I don't want to do this. That hurt. But I was like, no, this is my why. These kids are my why. I've got to do this. So he wouldn't let it go. And I even went, um, well, I'll go back to the book. So 2020, I had already mentioned I had never written a children's book. And I wrote 6 in a year. I mean, that is insane. And so I went back
That's
and
my level.
yeah, that's insane. So I went back and I learned more about writing for children and I got to edit them into a place where I like them a lot better.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and so that started happening. There was always intended to be 7 books. So I wrote the 7th one. And then I started going out and giving them to teachers and principals and I got feedback on them and it was great.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
yeah, but I was still kind of putzing along. And so back in September, I went to a mentor and I'm like, this has been really hard. This is September of 2024. Like, this is really hard. I don't know if I can keep going with this, and he said that the most life-changing thing to me, which has started me on this second journey here, but he said to me, has God told you to stop?
Oh, wow.
I
Good
was like,
mentor.
oh man, okay, no. So yeah, so there was that. And then some lessons along the way, and about the beginning of April, and I've heard you talk about this before, but I started reading mindset books. And
Yes.
I really changed my mindset around this. Yeah,
I've got one right now on my
yeah.
desk.
You've got to keep your head in the
Yeah.
game positively. Because if you don't, you can look at all these things and call them failures. And as you said, they're not failures, they're challenges.
Yeah.
So it's been absolutely amazing for me. And another big thing that I've learned, and I read this in a book, I think it's called Be Your Future Self Now by Benjamin Hardy. It's wonderful, Dr. Benjamin Hardy. He said, and this is amazing to me, and I want everybody to think about this. He said, your past doesn't dictate your present. Your
Oh,
present
absolutely.
dictates your past. And you take a second to think about it
Wow.
before. So now I'm in a good place. And when I'm telling you guys about what happened to me, I'm in a good place. So my business was a lesson. And that stop was me being able to be a parent.
Nice.
Isn't that interesting? I was like, that
That
is
is.
fantastic.
And I like what you say that you've got to be a parent because so many times it seems like, um, and I don't know if women do this to ourselves or what it is, but the culture is you don't stay home and be a mom anymore. There's something wrong with you if you do that, and that's totally not true. It's a
It is not
choice
true.
that you make. It's, yeah, if you want more things or whatever, then you go to work and get a better life that way. But who's taking care of your kids? You, it's wonderful for the moms that do stay home.
Mhm.
You gain so much, and I know it's not as glamorous. It can be really the most ungrateful, if you call it a career,
Yeah,
that
it is a
there is.
career. It is a
Yeah,
career.
I
Yeah.
mean, you're going at it full time, but you have such a responsibility there, and you can do it. So I don't want any woman to think that just because she's a stay-at-home mom that she's less than anything else. In fact, it's quite the opposite. You've got an amazing role there, and and it can be tough in corporate world. It can be tough anywhere that you're doing it. But I think you get hit hard from all sides being a stay-at-home mom. Well, why aren't you working? What's wrong with you? Are you
Right.
lazy? And it's like none of those things. I mean, it used to be that that's what women did. You stayed home, and then we were able to get jobs and things like that. Everything's changed, and now it seems to be a bad thing to stay home, but it's not.
It's
It's
not a bad thing. And I think that in a positive way, some of that is changing. People are realizing like that's an okay thing
right.
to do. I think that's lovely because as I just expressed, I felt like a complete failure that now I was home with these kids. And as I came out of it and looked back at it, I go, gosh, that's the most important thing I've ever done.
It's
Because I molded these 3 human beings. I got
yeah,
to be there for them. And it is something that's not appreciated as much, but we can appreciate each other as moms because you know how hard it is. And that's
right.
not saying if you're the type of mom that doesn't want to be home that that's bad, but I think it's really imperative for us to say, but if you do, that's awesome too.
Right, right.
Yeah. It
And then
really is.
there's moms that stay home and homeschool their kids. And
Hmm.
that's a whole nother thing there. It is really tough to homeschool your kids. I did it for quite a few years. The things that I loved the most were the moments we got to talk. You don't normally get to talk with your kids when they're going to public school or private
Hmm.
school. You've got very limited time. You come home, you get dinner, you do dishes, you do homework. Maybe you play games or watch TV or something, then you go to bed and that's it. Where's your real time with them? And that was one major benefit that I didn't even know I was going to get
Hmm.
when we decided to homeschool just for the 1 year, and it ended up being the rest of the time. But
Because it's good.
but
Yeah.
yeah, there were talks we had that we never would have ever had any kind of connection like that if they'd been going to public school. There just wouldn't be time for it,
Right. And
especially
I
with
think,
sports and everything
yeah.
else.
Well, I think that's, one of my favorite things about the app that we're rebuilding now. So I was talking about I did the books and now we're building the app again, where
Nice.
I'm very excited about it because I'm working with the developer and I know exactly not what not to
Yeah,
do. So it's amazing. So, but one of
that's
the things we,
important.
yeah, it really is. One of the things we have in there, which is to what you were saying, when we had the kids, so I joke, but I built this thing for myself because one of the things that I was experiencing with the kids not knowing how to play and what you experience with your kids is then they come and ask me what to do. Well, I'm an adult. I only can come up with so many things. And so I wanted something, and I didn't want to go on Google every time or Pinterest or all these places and be flooded with all
Oh,
this information.
yes.
So that is the point of this app. It's like you put in how many kids you have, how much time you want them to spend, how many points. If you want them to work on mind, heart, or body, I love that. And then you say, boom, and this app goes, here's 10 easy things for you to do. And your kids are going to get points. And then you get to pick what they get with the points. So it's like an incentive program, but your
Yeah.
kids are playing. But one thing we added to it, and this was because our kids would come over and what did you do today? Went from their mom's house. What did you do today? Nothing. How was school? Fine. Like, oh my gosh. So,
The
so
one
what,
word
yeah,
answers.
the one word
Like,
answers, you're
just
like,
leave me
oh my
alone.
gosh, difficult. Yeah. So we did a what things to talk about after a lot of the activities. So I
Oh,
see that
good.
you did, the 5 senses scavenger hunt. And then we asked 3 questions about it. And I just thought that was phenomenal because it gets your kid talking and they're getting points for talking to you, but that's okay.
That's good.
But that was a big deal to me because that, like you said, I can teach values in the books, which I do, but this way a parent can take and teach their values to the kids and share their stories and stuff like that. And I thought that was also really important because people are so busy.
They are. They are. And I miss the time when, everybody gets together and you hear the stories of coming up with things on, yeah, this didn't work, so I had to create this tool to make it work. Or,
Yeah.
or we didn't know what to do when this happened, so we had to come up with a plan for this, and, now everybody's doing it type thing. I mean, I remember a young gentleman had come to our home. It was him and his two friends. I don't know, they were selling something or something. And we got to talking about gaming because it was such a weird thing for a grandma to be a gamer. And the young man said, "Yeah, everybody's telling me it's nothing like what it used to be. We'd go out and do things together. We work on cars, whatever." It's like, well, my friends and I, we talk all the time. And I thought, well, that's really good. The thing of it is yes, you're talking, but you're not learning anything
Right. You
except
have to
how
do
to
to
play
learn.
that game. So if
Yeah.
you don't have your games, how are you going to learn in life? How are you going to take care of yourself? And I think COVID brought a lot of that home.
Yeah.
It's now we don't have all these things. What do we do with ourselves? You watch these shows about or documentaries, I guess, about how the young people, if they have to take care of themselves, they really don't know how to do it. And
Mhm.
what they've learned on the games is not reality. And if the only thing they're seeing on the games is shoot this person, blow this up, whatever, things like that. Okay, how's that going to work in the real world? If you're blowing everybody up and everything up, you've got nothing left to work with. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're doing that so you can teach the kids to it's a life skill. Yeah, hanging out, working on your car, hanging out, doing this are skills that you're learning to get you through life if something happens. What do you do
Well,
if plumber can't come over and your toilet's overflowing? Do you know that you can just turn it off in the
you can
back?
turn off the water.
Yeah, I mean, it's simple things like that.
But they
And
don't know it because they're not engaging in the real world. And
right, that's it
that's
right
that's
there.
what you're saying. And one of the most interesting things for me, as I've had more time now to do research on play, the amount of stuff that kids learn when they're out doing the thing they naturally want to do anyway, which is play. They're learning all these great skills. I loved what you
Yeah,
said that you look at problems as challenges. That's how kids look at problems when they're playing. They're not going to stop playing just because a problem arises. They want to
that's
keep
right.
doing it. So they learn problem solving. They learn
Exactly.
critical thinking, which is what you just said is going out the window. They learn empathy. They learn, they're make believing, they're using their imagination. And with your imagination, you could become creative. And there's
Right.
all these things that are just natural. I had no idea like how much I was learning, but you're not going to have any future entrepreneurs if you don't have anybody with imagination,
Right.
right?
And
Yeah,
people think, well, imagination creativity is fine when you're a kid. Actually, it's fine when you're an adult
it's
because
needed.
we wouldn't have dryer sheets. We wouldn't have dryers.
We
We
wouldn't have
wouldn't
anything.
have, yeah, much of anything. If somebody didn't think of it, I mean, even people who, look at the things that we saw on Star Trek or on some of those shows that now have come into fruition because somebody says, well, maybe we really can make
Can
some.
do that. Well,
If you didn't have a creative mind, we wouldn't have microwave ovens.
exactly. Well, and that's very interesting. I do a lot of research on imagination too, and imagination is just as needed in math and science. You're
Oh,
not going
yeah,
to come up with a theory if you have no imagination.
that's
You're not.
right.
Yeah. It's
Right.
so
You've
it's
got to
just
do
it's a
that.
thing that I think is really valuable for us to focus on as a society, getting our kids playing again, building back that imagination muscle. And I always say this to people, but kids want to do that. They
Yes, they
literally
do.
want to do that. Um, and you were saying about your kids, it took, a month to for them to kind of forget how to play.
Yeah.
I like to tell people, like, think about technology as an addiction. It really is addicting.
Mhm.
I get on it sometimes and I just start scrolling and I look up and it's an hour later and I'm sitting here saying, don't do that, right? Right?
Right.
But it's it's
Yeah.
it's it is designed, literally designed to give you dopamine reactions that make you stick to it.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it makes me really worried for kids because my brain is fully developed. Theirs
Yeah.
isn't.
Right.
So
Right.
I have, for anybody, I told my story, but for anybody who has a business right now that's not fully thriving how you thought it should, I would just say it might be not the right time. Look at me, I'm
Mhm.
so much later than it was. And I would just suggest to keep going, keep going, keep going.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I was just thinking, there used to be, even in my grandfather's time, even in my parents' time, my Ice Age, they were working on farms, they were working on ranches, they were working on buildings. We didn't have this full electrical revolution. I don't know what it's called. We had the Industrial Revolution and things started changing, but people needed to invent things to make these things work better.
Mhm.
And now that we have this digital world, there are some really great minds out there, but I don't think it's as prevalent as it used to be because we're not forced to create things. Everything is right there with us. We go to Amazon and get anything you want off Amazon.
Yeah.
You don't even have to try to come up with things yourself. But why not try to make your own chicken house or whatever? I don't
Well,
know.
you
Make
feel
your own
so
shed. Do
yeah, you
something
feel so
you
good
know how to
about
do.
it. I
You
I
do.
do. I just
Yeah.
started baking in the last like 2 years. Okay. I
Yeah.
can't do anything in a kitchen. I do you know how good I feel about myself when I create something from scratch? And that's kind of what I'm talking about. I'm not saying we need to be screen free. I always want to mention that. Like we're on
Yeah.
a screen right now. Screens are good. But for kids, um, you want to give them that thing that made you the happiest when you were little. And that thing was playing and being with your friends and inventing
Yeah.
and make believe. And I always want adults to tap into their childhood and think about their favorite
Tree
memory.
house. Yeah, building a
Yeah,
tree house, building a fort, going out into the woods,
getting
going out
dirty.
fishing. Yeah, digging under the rocks, looking for bugs, whatever it
Yeah.
is. But yeah, just going out and experiencing what the world has
Well,
and
and you have to, there's
imaginating.
research now that you have to actually experience stuff and be in stuff. Like to your point, the guys talking about it. No, you actually have to do stuff to build that part of your
Yes,
brain. You really do. It's a big deal. So yeah, I'm adamant about it. So
that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. So where do people find your app? I mean, do you have it up and running now? How do they find
We're
the
just, yeah, we're just
exercise
as,
things?
yeah, as us talking right now, we are just starting to rebuild it. So what I am trying to do, because everything we're saying sounds kind of pie in the sky. Oh yeah, that would be great. But we can do this as a culture if we do it together. So
Yeah.
what I am trying to do, we can do this together. I kind of compare it to cigarettes. Like
Right.
now, if like how cigarettes, like people all thought they were good, and then it was like, oh gosh, they're not good. So if you're an adult and you want to smoke a cigarette, that's fine. But anybody handing a cigarette to a kid, you'd be like, wow, maybe you shouldn't do that. So like think of a smartphone as a cigarette. Just don't give it to your kid,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah, we've known that this is bad for them. It's really bad for their brains. Hold off. So I say that because I want to get a community of people together who are excited about this. As we're building the app, I'm going to ask people to test it for me. If you have, and the activities on there are as simple as the license plate game. Okay, but
Oh, yeah.
we've tied points to it, and the kids are getting points, and they're seeing that this is it's like gamification of the stuff we did. So I want people involved in it, and I'll give you credit for whatever you send it. If you have something that your family does that's super silly, send it to us. So what I would ask people to do is go out to sscoulter.com. That's my website. So it's Shannon, like Sue S Coulter is COULTER.com. And there you'll see my books. There's free coloring pages. There's all sorts of free stuff out there, but there will be a page where you can sign up to either test the app or be alerted when it comes out.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really awesome. So what do your kids think about you doing this? You had time to spend with them and now you're going. Are some of them like, why are you leaving us? And yeah, we know
They're
they
old. They're
they're
old.
old
So
now.
they're not even here. They are 27, 26, and 21, but they're
Oh,
excited because
mine
they
are in the
remember.
40s. Yours are not old.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. But they're old enough to not, care where I go. But they were involved when we started this company. The characters in the books are the animals their dad and I have loved throughout our lives. So they're the dogs and
Oh,
cats. So they
nice.
know some of the characters and they helped. I used these activities on them and worked on them. So they're really excited about it because FASA was always a big thing in our lives. So they're excited.
That's awesome. I love that. Well, I can hardly wait to go go be a part of it somehow. This is great. Yeah, because I've got grandkids.
It's
Kids keep
perfect.
coming all the time.
Yeah, well, eventually we'll have a village in there that, like, if they're at your house and do a couple, you can hit it, and mom and dad will get things to talk about when they come home. So,
I was just seeing a video came up of things that kids can do together. And I thought, I mean, they were just creative. It's like draw a circle, put a ball in it, and the kids have to sit on their butt, grab the ball with their feet, put it in the next circle, and then the next person. So you're passing the ball down through the circles, or use hula hoops or whatever you've
it's
got.
awesome, right? It's really
Yeah, I
easy.
just all kinds of little things to do. And it's like, how creative is that? And how fun.
Uh-huh.
I'd love to
And
be
kids
active.
love it. They do love it.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do. Absolutely.
Because you loved it and I loved it, so we know they
Yeah.
love it. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, this is really great. Thank you, Shannon, so much for being here and letting us in on this. And we'll definitely have to have you on Reading Between the Words, talking about your books. We'll go a little more in depth on that. But get a hold of Shannon, sscoulter.com. And we'll see you next time on Wisdom on the Front Porch.
Thank you for joining us today on Wisdom on the Front Porch with your host, Ellis Kirkpatrick. You can find us on our website, wisdomonthefrontporch.com, see previous episodes of the podcast, and view issues of the magazine. Did you know you can submit questions, leave reviews, or suggest topics? You can also tell us where your favorite front porch location is and what it means to you. We hope you gain value and insight from today's or previous talks. We appreciate your support for us so we can continue to provide value and expertise to you and others. Subscribe to Wisdom on the Front Porch magazine and join in next week when we bring you another great insight into the world of entrepreneur culture and lifestyle. Make today a great day. Always believe that something wonderful is going to happen.